Hi, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming for this town hall meeting. This is the first town hall meeting that we have for SamTrade online trading business. I'm Goh Thian Pong. I'm the IGM of the company, the six IGM companies. And together with me is Chang Keng Teck. He's my co-IGM. And then we have Patrick Ang, who is a lawyer assisting the IGM now here. And also we have the whole team, right? Sorry, there's some technical issue just right at the start. Is it okay already? So do I need to repeat? Okay, so sorry, just now there's some technical issues. And I'm Goh Thian Pong. I'm one of the interim judicial manager of the six companies that's under IJM, SamTrade online trading business. And together with me is Chang Keng Teck. He's my co-IJM. And we have Patrick Ang, who is our lawyer, assisting the IJM here with me. And we have the whole team of the IGM teams, as well as staff from SamTrade, who has actually helping the IGMs all this while. This is Lee Sing, who is one of the directors of three of the IGM companies, Jonathan, Wei Jie, Alfred, and Jason. Right, without further ado, let me quickly go to the contents of today's meeting. First of all, we'll brief you through some of the background. How did all these things happen? What's the sequence of event? What are the IGM companies? What are the peculiarities? And what does it mean when companies go into IGM? And then very quickly, we go into financial status of the IGM companies. There are six IGM companies, and this is very important thing because we need to establish whether these IGM companies, whether as a whole or individually, whether they are insolvent, right? And then the third thing, I think, is something that people are very interested. A lot of you have been asking this question, whether there's these 6 pillars of secured fund coverage in the SamTrade website now. What are they, and whether is it true that there is they mean what they say? And we also update you on other judicial management matters. And I think most importantly is to talk about the prospect of achieving the object of judicial management. Right. So on the background, a bit of the sequence of event. So this whole thing happened from 3rd January when CAD and MS released a statement saying that they actually launched a joint investigation into SamTrade FX Limited. We call it SamTrade SVG from now on. And then the directors of IGM companies announced that the SamTrade business will be put on suspension. And very quickly on 20th January, SamTrade FX Limited and 5 other companies, and later on I'll elaborate which 5, they have applied for interim judicial management. And 8 days later, the High Court appointed myself and Keng Teck as the IGM of IGM companies, these 6 IGM companies, and also to produce a report to be filed on 25th of March. On 25th of March, we actually completed the report, but because we do want to give the directors a chance to respond to our report, we actually asked the court for extension of time, which the court granted. And the court granted our report we filed on the 12th of May 2022. And finally, 12th May 2022, we filed the report with the court. Right, so this is a brief sequence of events of this whole IGM affairs. Now, the 6 IGM companies. So if you look at these 6 IGM companies, first, SamTrade FX Limited, we call it SamTrade SVG, is incorporated in St. Vincent and Grenadines. And the second one, SamTrade VA, incorporated in Vanuatu. Third and fourth, SamTrade Custodian, one incorporated in Singapore, the other one incorporated in SVG. And fifth and sixth, Sam FinTech and Sam Marketing. And if you look at these 6 companies, you will note that Sam Goh is actually a shareholder, either a sole shareholder or majority shareholder of all these 6 companies, and also a director of these 6 companies. And Goh Lee Sing is the director of 3 companies which are incorporated in Singapore. And just to give you a bit of background, the first 2 companies, SamTrade FX Limited as well as SamTrade Vanuatu Limited, these 2 companies are deemed to be the contracting party. They contract with all of you. When you trade in the SamTrade website, you are actually contracting with these parties. And the next 2 companies, SamTrade Custodian Private Limited and SamTrade Custodian Limited. Now, these 2 companies are actually holding deposits. Most of them that are holding deposits for all of you. And Sam FinTech Private Limited and Sam Marketing Private Limited are actually service providing. SAM FinTech is providing IT services and SAM Marketing providing marketing services for the SAM Trade group of business. Now, only SAM Trade FX Limited, the first company, actually earns revenue. All right, SAM Trade Custodian, the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth companies, they do not earn any revenue from third parties, and they rely solely on SAM Trade FX business for their survival. Right, so these are the 6 IGM companies. Just to brief you on the objects of judicial management. Firstly, to appoint IGM for the company is really to try to see whether we can help the company in whole or in part to continue as a going concern, means to continue business of the company as a going concern. And secondly, whether we are able to reach a compromise or arrangement with the company's creditors, which is all of you, and allow the company to carry on as a going concern. And thirdly, the purpose of IGM is to achieve a better realization of company's assets than a winding up situation. Right? So these are the 3 objects of IGM. And since we are appointed, there are a few things that we've done. First thing is review the financial status of IGM companies. And now, even though this sounds like an easy task, but it's actually not easy. Later on, I will tell you the difficulties that the IGMs are facing. And also then we also identify and secure the monies and assets held by various parties. And we also have to deal with employees matters and all the operational matters. And the more important thing is, after doing all our work, we will have to assess whether is judicial management the right way to go, or should the company be wound up? I've told you about some difficulties faced by the IGMs. First thing is there's no proper accounting records at all. So there's no systematic accounting records for us to even lay our hands on. And there's no management accounts or financial statements that's prepared all along for these 5 years since the companies were incorporated. And then the staff who have knowledge of the IGM companies, many of them have left the IGM companies when the IGMs were appointed. And the current finance team are actually quite new. In fact, the finance manager is about half a year into this. And in terms of transactions, it's voluminous. There are altogether 118,000 active users. If you want to include the inactive users and dormant accounts, that's about 165,000 of them. And on average, there's about 2 million trades per month that is done. And at this stage, I'd like to thank many of you who actually call my team, and provide some feedback and background information, which is very helpful in our work. If not, then we are actually working in the dark. And also, I'd like to thank the SAM Trade team, Li Xing, Alfred, Jonathan, Wei Jie, Jason, for the help. Without these people, I don't think we can even come that far. We can't even produce the first report because they have to help us try to source for all the evidence documents for us to be able to come to this state. Right. Now, just to give you a bit of background, because just in case you feel that there's only 6 companies known, but apart from the 6 companies under the SAM Trade network that is put under IGM, okay, these 2 companies, SAM Trade SVG, SAM Trade VA, these are the contracting companies, and the 2 custodian companies and the 2 service support companies. Besides these 6 companies that's under IGM, there are a lot of other companies that's also involved in SAM Trade network. Now, in Singapore, there is this SAM Trade LLP. This is a limited liability partnership, which is not capable of being put under any IGM or anything like that. And we also know that SAM Trade business predominantly is in Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia. So these are the companies in Malaysia and Indonesia that we've identified that hold some money on behalf of SAM Trade business. And also there's a whole host of companies which we put under Appendix 1 of our report. At this stage, we are still investigating into these companies and see whether there is any possibility that we can recover any more money from these other companies. And if you read our report, we did say that, okay, from what the management has presented to us, there's about 267.7 million worth of cash, crypto, gold, and PSP. And 184 million of it is actually in the IGM companies. And for other entities that is not under IGM companies, in Singapore, there's 6.8 million, Malaysia, 15.5 million, Indonesia, 61.2 million, and others, we put a question mark because at this stage, we do not know how much is there. But this is information provided by management, and also it is inside Sam Goh's affidavit. Yeah. And after we have been appointed, what we have done is firstly to verify whether how much money is there really. And so far, we can verify that there's about 175.7 million. Why? Because for the Malaysia and Indonesia money, either they have been withdrawn or we have no access to this money. And for the iGEM companies, 168 million, most of them is actually seized by the CAD. And because it is seized by CAD, we know that it is there, and we have verified that this amount is still there. Now, the next thing I'd like to go through is the financial status of the iGEM companies. And even though there are 6 iGEM companies, and even though the law requires that we review each company, each entity to see whether they are or they are not insolvent, but because of the way the iGEM companies or Sandtrade companies are organized, each company are actually performing a certain function. For example, Sandtrade SVG and Sandtrade Vanuatu, they are contracting parties. The Sandtrade custodian companies are actually holding monies, and then Sam Fintech, Sam Marketing, they are service provider. So it is only more meaningful and more commercial to treat all these companies as a whole and review the financial status of these 6 iGEM companies as a whole, right? And this is what we get, and you probably can see it in our report as well. The main assets that we know is cash, cryptocurrencies, gold and receivables from PSP, that's about 267.7 million. And the main liability is actually payable to client, means payable to all of you. That means your balance with Sandtrade, and that is 875.6 million. Just to recap, this cash, cryptocurrency, gold and receivable, the 267.7 million is firstly based on Sam Goh's affidavit, and also is information provided by management. And we have verified 175.7 million so far. And investment in companies, later on, we will just give you a slide telling you which are the 4 companies that company invests in. And we are still in discussion with various of these shareholders of these companies to see how we can better realize this investment. Okay, even though we are saying that assets here is 269.5 million, eventually, how much is the value depends on how much we can identify, how much we can verify, and how much we can realize, how much we can recover. Right. Now, this 875.6 million that the company says that is owing to you is actually based on balance extracted from this CRM system. And CRM system is where all of you can access your information from your gadgets, from your handphone, to access your accounts balance, your trading information. Right? And just from the face of this, you will note that the net liability is 600 million, which means that because the liability of 876 million is not able to cover, your assets of 269 million is not able to fully pay your liability of 876 million. And therefore, these companies, iGEM companies as a whole, is actually insolvent because it's not able to pay the liabilities in full as and when they fall due. One thing I just want to highlight to all of you that this is actually not a consolidation of the accounts of 6 companies. It's also not an addition of assets and liabilities of the 6 iGEM companies. Later on, you'll see, I'll go through the individual iGEM companies, and those are a bit more technical. Right now, basically what we're trying to do is, to look at assets of all the Sandtrade network that we know, as well as liabilities of the Sandtrade online trading business that we actually lay our hands on. We are able to get it from the management. Right? And the main purpose is to analyze to see whether these iGEM companies put together, whether are they insolvent or not. And it's quite clear that it is very badly insolvent. Now let's go into the details I will just focus mainly on the main assets, which is cash, cryptocurrency, gold, and receivable of 267 million. And then later on, I'll go on to the liabilities. The main liability, the 875.6 million that is owing to all of you. So this is a table that you are familiar with, the 267.7 million total cash, crypto, and gold and receivable from PSP and liquidity providers. This information is provided by the management. And you see that 267.7 million, vast majority is 184.2 million is actually held by the IGM companies, and out of which 160 over million is seized by CAD. And then the remaining 83.5 million, 61 million is held by Indonesian entities and individuals, and then 15.5 is held by Malaysian entities. Now, this is information provided to us by management, and that comes up to a total of 267.7 million. Based on our verification, you find that some of these figures will disappear because we are not able to verify the Malaysian entities, money that is held by Malaysian entities and Indonesian entities. And therefore, what we can verify right now is really 175.7 million. Even for the IGM companies, it's not 185 million that is reported. Right now it's 168 million, part of which we are still waiting for bank confirmation on balances. We understand that balance is actually 13 million, but we need the bank to tell us that that is indeed the figure. Okay, so what we have verified so far is 175.7 million. Now, why is it that Malaysian entities and Indonesian entities were not able to verify? Now, I just give you a bit of background. For Malaysian entities, we know that the 15.5 million is held by 3 entities in Malaysia: Semtrade Academy, Genesis Capital, and Semtrade Custodian. And these are the directors and sole proprietor. And along the way, when we were appointed as IGM, we were told that the 9.5 million held by Semtrade Academy was fully withdrawn by unknown parties. Why? Because we tried to contact the directors and sole proprietor. Nobody tell us where this money has gone to and who has withdrawn this money. And for the other two amount, 0.2 million held by Genesis Capital Network and 5.8 million held by Semtrade Custodian Sdn Bhd, we're not able to verify them because we are not able to access the balance held by these companies. So what we have done, we have attempted to contact all these directors and shareholders of the Malaysian entities. Now, some of these directors and shareholders, actually, we had some conversation right at the start, but when the monies were withdrawn, some of these people, we were not able to contact them, right? And so therefore, we have reported this matter to CAD. We have also reported this matter to the Malaysian authorities. And we are right now liaising with the Malaysian lawyers to explore how else we can recover this money. Right, so these are Malaysian entities. For the Indonesian entities and individuals, so we know that, in Indonesia, the money is held by 2 parties. One is this creature called MC, and we do not know, until this date, we do not know whether is this an entity or is this an individual. Okay, we do not know. We only know that Semtrade people actually communicate with this person through this email address, statement.dailyreport@gmail.com. Right? And we also know that the monies and gold held by this person, and short form is TJ. And monies held by MC is actually held under various companies' bank account. So these are the companies that is holding money. 5 companies as well as 1 individual is holding this money. And also there is this USDT pool, which we do not know what that is. That's 7.1 million. And together MC is holding 26.3 million. And this is the information that we got from management. And we also know that TJ holds gold and cash of 34.9 million. So together it's about 61.2 million. And along the way, shortly after we have been appointed, we also know that there's some money that is withdrawn by unknown parties, about 13 million. And same thing, all the other monies is actually, we do not know where they are. We have no access to this money. We have attempted to contact MC and TJ. We had a conversation with TJ in the early days, trying to establish where is the money. And as you can see in our report, TJ said that he has hand over the money to MC, but we do not know who this MC is. So we have reported this matter to CAD, and we also have recently reported the matter to Indonesian authorities. And for the longest of time, we have been talking to our Indonesian lawyers to see, in Indonesia, what is the best way that we can access this money. All right. So that's all for cash and crypto and gold. The next thing is investment in companies. So the 1.8 million is actually representing 4 companies. 3 companies. Zana is incorporated in Singapore, Velopa is incorporated in Europe, and SAM JD is incorporated in Singapore. So these 3 companies held by SAM Fintech SG. We understand that this is actually investment for SAM Trade business to expand. And then another company with a very small investment amount, $1,283, that's SAM Hong Kong. They haven't started any operations yet. But we have already started to talk to the shareholder, the majority shareholder of all these companies, and discuss how we can sort of unwind this investment or realize the value of this investment. Okay, so that much for the assets of the SAM Trade Group. Now the next thing is on the payables to client. This 875.6 million that's owing to all of you. This 875.6 million is made up of a few components. Made up of 818 million deposits, either in gold, in crypto, a deposit by all of you. And also there's a withdrawal by all of you. That's 497 million. Right? And also there's profit earned by all of you, less losses from trading activities. That's 366.2 million. What I'd like to emphasize is that this 366 million is actually profit minus losses, which means that you enter into trade, there's profitable trade, there's loss-making trade, but this is overall you actually make a profit of 366 million. And this 366 million is actually net of whatever profit share that you share with your IBs and master traders. You all know that if you make a profit on your trade, 25% of it, roughly 25% of it will go to your introduction broker or the master trader, right? And your introduction broker or master trader will share part of the 25% with SAM Trade SVG. So if you consider, before sharing this profit share with the IB or master trader, the net gain, the overall gain by all of you is actually much higher than 366.2 million, which means that somebody out there is actually losing this same amount of money. Could it be one individual who lose all this money, or is it a group of companies or the market as a whole? Later on, I will elaborate. And this 82.1 million, that's the next number. That is profit share that is credited to the IBs or the master traders account. The next item is commissions on trade earned by IBs. You know that every time when you enter into a trade, either buy, sell a currency pair, whether you make profit or make losses, your IBs will earn certain percentage of commission. Now the question is, who is paying them this commission? Right. So all these items add up to 875.6 million owing to all of you. Could be clients, could be IBs. Right now, I would like to just talk more about the 366.2 million trading activities, and later on, I will talk about commission. Okay, to all of you, you probably hear from the people from SAM Trade that SAM Trade website is actually a platform for you to conduct business, for you to enter into CFD trades, which means that you can place an order, you can buy or sell a currency pair through this SAM Trade website. And then somebody in the market out there will pick up, will be a counterparty to whatever order that you place. And they call it a straight-through processing, STP, which means that there's nobody in between, not even SAM Trade, will interfere these trading activities, right? But from what we can see, these trading activities that's undergone by SAM Trade SVG, there are 2 kinds of it. One is where trades initiated by all of you. When we say down here clients is actually all of you, right? And the second is trades initiated or placed by SAM Trade SVG. Now, when there's trades initiated by all of you, actually the counterparty is none other than SAM Trade SVG. It's not any other, not the market, not anybody else, but it's SAM Trade SVG. Okay, and that's what they call Book B trades. Okay, so that means you know that if you make money, if you profit from this trade, the loser is actually SAM Trade SVG. And occasionally, when you initiate a trade And as usual, Semtrade SVG take on as a counterparty role. Semtrade SVG also enter into a back-to-back transaction with liquidity providers. All right. Now, when Semtrade SVG initiate a deal, initiate a trade, they do not trade with any one of you. They actually trade with the liquidity providers. That is Book C trade. And from our review, we find that the vast majority of the trade is actually between all of you, the clients, and Semtrade SVG, right? So which is Book B trade. Just to give you a bit of flavor, total trades entered into for, supposed to be for last 5 years, but majority, I would say majority, about 90%, entered into in 2021, just 1 year. That's 24.2 million trades. And the value is 2.7 trillion US dollars. Right? That's how much the Book B trade is. And that's how much the trade between you and Semtrade SVG. Now, how about the trades between Semtrade SVG and the liquidity providers? Total trade is 27,000 and total value is only 3 billion US compared to your Book B trade, compared to trades entered between you and Semtrade. That is a small amount, right? And for the Book B trade, for the 2.7 trillion trades that entered between you and Semtrade SVG, now you know that if you make a profit, Semtrade is going to make a loss. And that is where, when you have 366.2 million profit, and this is after deducting profit share, Semtrade is making the same amount of loss, 366.2 million. And then how about the Book A and Book C trade? Same thing, Semtrade didn't make a profit there, Semtrade also make a loss. And where Semtrade made a loss, the liquidity providers will make a profit, and that's only 600,000. Okay, so first thing, the Book A, Book C trade, Semtrade is still making a loss, and so therefore you know that Semtrade is not making any profit from anywhere else to cover the loss to all of you of 366.2 million. So the question is, it's well and good that not all of you are making profit, then where does Semtrade get the money to pay for your profit? And I'm saying that this 366.2 million is after deducting profit share. Now, if you consider the profit share, if you add back the profit share, then this profit to you or loss to Semtrade is even larger. Okay. Now, so I'm going to gross the profit to you back. So this 366.2 is net of profit share. And if you add back the profit share that you give to the IBs and the master trader, that's 82.1. And also profit share given to Semtrade SVG, that's 64.5. You actually make a profit of 512.8 million, not 366 anymore. It's 512.8 million. And that's from your perspective. So all of you actually made a profit, overall profit, less losses of 512.8 million. But from Semtrade perspective, as I said, if it is a profit to you, it is a loss to Semtrade. And therefore, Semtrade make a gross loss of 512.8 million. But of course, they have the 64.5 million share of profit that is given back to them. And the cumulative gross loss is actually 448.3 million. All right, that's how much Semtrade has lost by you, all of you making a profit. And that's not all yet. Now we talk about commission. So for commission, as I said, right, whenever you all enter into a trade, whether you make a profit or loss, your IBs are paid commission. And if you yourself become IB, then you will also be earning commission, and your top line may also, in certain circumstances, also earn commission. And there will be multiple levels of this IBs that that are entitled to commission. And of course, the commission payable varies from IBs to IBs depending on what are the arrangement that these IBs made with Semtrade SVG. Okay, and for Book B trades, and I asked the question, right, who pays for the commission? The commissions are actually paid by Semtrade SVG. And we know that vast majority of the trade entered by Semtrade SVG is actually Book B trade. That 2.7 trillion, value of trades entered. And this commission attributable to IBs on Book B trade is 103.3 million. So therefore, the gross loss to Semtrade SVG, just now you remember there's 448.3 million from trading losses. plus 103.3 million from commissions paid to IB or payable to IB. Total loss to Semtrade SVG is 551.6 million. And that can probably explain why is it that there is a huge discrepancy between the liabilities of 876 million and assets of only 269.5 million. Of course, we are still continue to review to see whether is there any other circumstance that could lead to such huge discrepancy between the assets and liabilities. So, and also we are trying to see why is it that every time Semtrade is able to allow the clients, which is all of you, to make profit most of the time up to this kind of level, 512 million, and at the same time they make a loss. Okay, so that investigation work is ongoing. Now we come back to the 875.6 million that, based on CRM, Semtrade is saying that they are owing all of you. Allow me to just alter the sequence a bit. You look at the total withdrawal by client of 497 million. Right? This withdrawal by client of 497 million, part of it is actually withdrawal of deposit. Part of it is withdrawal profit arising from trading activities, and part of it is actually withdrawal by the IBs or master trader from their share of profit, and there's also withdrawal of commission. And I can say that right now, while we are still investigating, I can say that actually withdrawal of deposit is not 407 million. It's actually about at most 400 million, which means that there's almost about 100 million withdrawal of either profits, share of profits, or commissions. Okay, which means that Sam Goh has given us his his remarks and say that, hey, let's pay the unwithdrawn deposits or unwithdrawn capital first. Now, even so, okay, if let's say the withdrawal of deposits is about 400 million, okay, net of a deposit of 800 million, there's about 400 over million of unwithdrawn deposits that is to be paid to all of you, and there's only verified assets of 167 million on hand. Right? So it's not enough to pay everybody. And also we know from our review that there are also people, especially IBs and all that actually didn't put in too much money but have made a large withdrawal because of the profit share and commission. Right? Okay. So now let's move on to the individual iGEM companies' financial status. I would tell you that it's not so meaningful looking at individual companies, but because of requirement in law, we will have to still look at individual companies. Now, Semtrade SVG. I'll just go through very quickly. As I said, Semtrade SVG is actually a contracting party with all of you, and therefore, the whole 875 million that's owing to all of you should be assumed by Semtrade SVG. And even though Semtrade SVG record this full liabilities, sometimes this deposits doesn't come into Semtrade SVG, it actually go to Semtrade Custodian SG or Semtrade Custodian SVG, and therefore, these companies will owe Semtrade SVG whatever deposit that they've collected. But the more important thing to note is that right now, even though the assets that we put on there is 476 million, at the end of the day, how much can be realized is, how much we can verify, how much these other assets are worth. For example, right now we say that Semtrade Custodian SG owes Semtrade SVG 113.4 million. Now, if Semtrade Custodian SG only have assets of about 3 million to 5 million, then the whole of 113 million should be written off, and only 3 to 5 million that represent something that we can recover, right? So that's why I'm saying that it's quite theoretical. At the end of the day, it all depends on how much money we can recover from these so-called assets. But the important thing to note is, even though we have not written down these assets, already you look at Semtrade SVG is a net liability of 400 million, and therefore Semtrade SVG will not be able to meet its obligations, the liabilities, as and when they fall due, and is therefore insolvent. Prior to 5th of July 2019, actually Semtrade Vanuatu was a contracting party, but of course at that time there's less trades. Most of trade, as I explained earlier, actually took place in 2021. But before that, the contracting party was Semtrade VA. And after Semtrade SVG came into place, all assets and liabilities have been taken over by Semtrade SVG. Right? And at present, there is no known assets held by Semtrade VA. There's a small liability of 16,300, which is owing to a corporate sectorial service provider. But because Semtrade VA do not have any assets at all, so even this small liability means that Semtrade VA is not able to pay such liability and is therefore insolvent. The next two companies are the custodian companies, Semtrade Custodian SG, and the next one is Semtrade Custodian SVG. And as I've explained earlier, these companies do not earn revenue at all. It doesn't even charge anything to Semtrade SVG at all. So therefore, whatever expenses incurred by these companies are actually funded by Semtrade SVG, and whatever assets that is held by these companies are actually also funded by Semtrade SVG, and therefore they are actually owing whatever assets that they hold to Semtrade SVG. Okay, but just on the surface itself, you see that Semtrade Custodian SG is already insolvent position, 82.7 million net liabilities. Just go through line by line. Loan to Sem Fintech, that's to finance Sem Fintech to acquire investment in Volopar. And loan to Semgo and Golising they've confirmed that loans was dispersed to pay the income tax in respect of Semtrade LLP. There's a limited liability partnership, and we will seek recovery of these loans in due course. The 113 million is whatever deposits that is placed by you into Semtrade Custodian SG. And 0.100,000 is 2 months salary payable to Semgo and Golising pre-IJM, right? And Semtrade Custodian SG will not be able to pay its obligation as and when it fall due, okay, and therefore it's insolvent. The next company is Semtrade Custodian SVG. Okay, similarly, as I said, Semtrade Custodian SVG do not have any revenue of its own, and therefore whatever cash, bank, and cryptocurrency that they have, whatever receivable from liquidity providers is actually held on behalf of Semtrade SVG. And because all these monies are seized by the CAD, they are actually cash flow insolvent, and they are also, they are in a way insolvent, right? Because they are not able to meet its liabilities as and when they fall due. Okay, so these are the two custodian companies. Now, the next two companies that we're going into are the two service providers. Okay, Sem Fintech SG, same thing. Sem Fintech SG, they do not charge any revenue to any third parties. So the only one company that is financing them is actually Semtrade SVG. Okay, the 1.8 million is actually shares in Zana, Volopar, and Sem JD. And because they do not have any revenue of its own, all these assets are actually held on behalf of Semtrade SVG. And similarly, they are also insolvent, right? Net liability position. Now, the last one is Sem Marketing SG, right? Already, Sem Marketing SG is same thing, right? No revenue. Whatever assets that it held is actually held on behalf of Semtrade SVG. And in fact, just on the surface itself, there's 300,000 of liabilities payable to all the employees. These pre-IJM liabilities, and already it is insolvent. Right. So you can see that all the 6 IJM companies, whether as a whole or individually, they are all insolvent. The next thing that I like to go through is the 6 pillars of secured fund coverage. And that is something that a lot of people are asking us. And thanks for all the queries that is posted to us over this 1-2 months. Now, if you look at the Centrate website, you will see these 6 pillars of secured fund coverage. First one being segregated clients funds, and then professional indemnity insurance, and then third-party insurance, and then members of the Financial Commission, claiming that Centrate SVG is actually a member of Financial Commission. And then there's a negative balance protection, which means that your balance will never go to negative. And there's a real-time notification of any withdrawal or deposit. Now, I'll focus more on the first 4 items because the 5th and 6th item is something that's verified. All of you know that, that is indeed the case. But whether there's segregated clients funds, whether there's enough professional indemnity insurance, whether there's third-party insurance, and whether Centrate SVG is a member of Financial Commission is something that a lot of you are asking, and we have done some work on it. First thing on segregated clients funds. And this is what you see in the Centrate website, that all our clients' monies are deposited in a bank account or custody facility that has measures in place to ensure that funds received are placed with the custodian with robust custodian framework and functions. Now, first of all, we do not see any trust agreement between all of you and Centrate SVG on any custody, any trust arrangements. And secondly, even on Centrate website, there is no mention of any terms and conditions that there's any trust arrangements set up for all of you. And in fact, even though there are certain companies with the name custodian, like Centrate Custodian SVG, Centrate Custodian SG, we know that these companies do not perform any custodian functions. And in fact, the monies that is deposited into these 2 companies were actually used to pay expenses. So actually, there's no segregation of the deposits with monies that is used to pay expenses. And we also know, as we show you just now, that companies in Malaysian entities and Indonesian entities and individuals, there's no control at all by the Singapore directors or key management. And to just further elaborate that actually all the monies are commingled. Let's show you a chart. Now you know that, we just put these 3 major markets, Singapore, Indonesia, and Malaysia. Now, so for each of the countries, each of the territory, right, you accept crypto or you accept cash. And typically, we know that if the deposit is in crypto, the withdrawal will be in crypto. And deposit in cash, the withdrawal will be in cash. And typically, if the deposit is in one territory, for example, Singapore, then the withdrawal will be from cash from Singapore, right? But withdrawal of deposit can be in crypto or in cash. And if there's deposit in crypto, now the crypto account holder is actually Semgo, Golising, and Centrate SVG, which means that anywhere in the world, as long as you deposit crypto, right, whether you're in Singapore, you're in Indonesia, in Malaysia, as long as you deposit in crypto, it actually go into Semgo, Golising, and Centrate SVG's account. So already it's commingled, where you are. And even if you deposit money in form of cash, now in each territory, there's bank account under different entities. Singapore is under Centrate LLP, Centrate Custodian SG, Centrate Custodian SVG. In Indonesia, there's all these entities and individuals, and in Malaysia, there are 3 Malaysian companies that's holding cash, and in fact, Malaysian cash deposit into Malaysia can even go to Centrate SVG and Centrate LLP. Why? Because there's some bank account in Malaysia actually held by Centrate SVG and Centrate LLP. So therefore, you see that even if you deposit money in the form of cash into, let's say, Malaysia, into one entity, when you withdraw, the money actually can come from another entity, bank account of another entity in Malaysia, not necessarily from the same bank account. And therefore, there is, again, another commingle. And we also see that the companies that is holding deposits, your deposits, are actually paying expenses. Now, for Indonesia, we really do not know which are the entities that is paying for the expenses in Indonesia. And the last thing that I'd like to show you all is, as you all know, that monies in Indonesia and Malaysia can even go to somewhere else that we do not know where they go to. So, really, I do not think that there's any trust arrangement or any custodian arrangement at all. So these are the points that I've made just now in the chart. And based on our work done, there's really no evidence of any custodian arrangement or trust arrangement between all of you and Centrade SVG. And therefore, we have concluded that any entities in the Centrade network that holds money, it is actually holding on behalf of Centrade SVG, because Centrade SVG is the only contracting party with all of you. And of course, it then follows that if we can recover money from anywhere in the world, as long as Centrade, it belongs to Centrade Online Business, then this money will be shared pari passu with all the creditors, all of you, everywhere in the world. So whether the money is recovered from Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, it would have to be shared with all of you, whether you are in Indonesia, Singapore, or Malaysia, right? So that's the position we have taken with the advice of a lawyer. So the next thing that we want to touch on is professional indemnity insurance. So what you see in the website is Sam Custodian has introduced a professional indemnity insurance with Falcon Insurance of up to 2 million per claim. Right. And based on what we have found, there's 2 insurance policy with Falcon Insurance. One is the insurance policy entered into by Centrade VA and expired in 2021 November, and it's 100,000 per claim. It's not 2 million per claim. It's 100,000 per claim, up to 3 million for the 1 year that is covered. And then there's insurance policy entered into by Centrade Custodian SVG, also expired on 22nd January 2022, and is 200,000 per claim. Also not 2 million per claim. It's 200,000 per claim, up to a maximum of 2 million for that 1 year that's covered. And all these policies have lapsed, and Centrade VA and Centrade Custodian SVG can no longer claim against these insurers. And what we found is that Centrade SVG, which is the most important entity, which is the entity that is contracting with all of you, they do not have any professional indemnity insurance cover with Falcon Insurance or with any other insurers. Right. So third-party insurance. Now, this is what you see in the Centrade website. Now, clients that fund, so that means all of you that fund with Centrade will be protected under YK FX Assurance Center. We call it YK FX in short. Who can apply claims up to $7,000 for compensation. Now, so we look high and low in wherever we can lay our hands on. We cannot see any agreement between any of the iGEM companies with this YK FX. But we see that there is actually an agreement between YK Company Limited. Now, just note that YK Company Limited is not YK FX, with Centrade Hong Kong Limited. This Centrade Hong Kong Limited, and the coverage is up to $5,000 per person. But this agreement is actually very brief in Chinese, and it doesn't state the scope of coverage, who can claim, and what is the terms and conditions to obtain the assistance. And in fact, even the party that is insured, the Centrade Hong Kong Limited, has not even started any operations, did not carry out business at all. Okay, the next item is members of Financial Commission. In short, we call it FinaCom. So what you see in Centrade website, Centrade is a member of the Financial Commission. This was established to be a neutral third-party committee to fairly review and resolve complaints. And those additional protection through the Commission's compensation fund with up to 20,000 euro per client. So we wrote to FinaCom, and they told us that yes, they are alternative dispute resolution body, and they do allow all of you, right, to apply to determine whether there's any claim against Centrade. But they also told us that Centrade SVG has been member since November 2019, and the membership status was changed to under review in January 2022, and then after that terminated on 3rd of February 2022, which means that FinaCom will stop accepting any claims from any of you against Centrade. We do not know whether each claim is euro 20,000, because we talked to them and we asked them. They did not tell us about this, but we do find that this amount is actually stated in FinaCom's website. Right. So that's all on the 6 pillars of secured fund coverage. Okay, the other thing that I'd like to update all of you are the other things that we've done as judicial managers. Now, first, employees. So altogether, there are about 86 employees worldwide. Sem Fintech 29, Sem Marketing there's 13, and Sem Trade SVG 42. And this 42 includes employees in Malaysia, Vietnam, and all other countries. And Sem Trade Custodian SG, 2 of them. There's Semgo and GoLeasing. Now we talked to all of them, and we have terminated the service of all these employees except for the 8 employees, which is useful and important for us to carry out our work. And in fact, Leasing, Alfred, Jonathan, Jason, and Wei Jie, they are part of it, and I like to again thank them for all their help. I just like to assure you that out of the 8 employees, Semgo is definitely not one of them. Not one of them. MT4 license. Now this is important because all of you know that the SemTrade online business, actually you can trade through this platform because of MT4 app. Right, on 22nd January 2022, before we were in place, before the 6 companies are put under IJM, MetaCode Software, so this MetaCode, they are the owner of MT4 license. They actually issued a notice to SemTrade to terminate this MT4 license, and termination will take effect on the 31st of January 2022. And when we come in as IJM, we were appointed on 28th January, we knew about this, and immediately we write to MetaCodes as well as MatchTrade. MatchTrade is actually a sub-licensor of MT4 license. Ask them for extension of time so that we can negotiate a long-term arrangement while we review the current situation of these companies. But on 31st January, MetaCodes, unilaterally cancelled the MT4 license as what they have indicated in the notice of 22nd January 2022. Now, what that means is that on the open position, as at 31st January, these trading positions were forced closed, right? And therefore, all of you realize profit or loss on this date. And because of this termination, we can no longer carry on any trades on the SemTrade network. Okay, the last thing that we'd like to update all of you is a rental agreement. So there are actually 3 premises as rented by SemTrade: Temasek Boulevard, Suntec City, and Crown at Robinson, and the other one along Hugh Thompson Street. We find that it's no longer useful. We have terminated all these, the rental of all these premises. Okay. So on the next section, I'd like to discuss with all of you our preliminary assessment by the IJMs on the prospect of achieving the objectives of judicial management. Based on what we have seen so far, we found that all the IJM companies are actually not able to fulfill the objectives of judicial management because of the following reasons. First, the IJM companies, whether individually or as a whole, are actually quite hopelessly insolvent, right? They are not able to pay the debts as and when they fall due. And secondly, large part of cash is actually frozen by CAD, and therefore there's cash flow insolvent, can't even pay expenses. And very importantly, 3 individuals, including Semgo, and we name Semgo here, that's because CAD has actually put this in an affidavit in one of court hearing. They are all under investigation by MAS and CAD, and that definitely affect the confidence of the clients, of all of you. And because of the termination of MT4 application license, the IJM companies are no longer able to carry on any business, any online trading business at all, right? And at the state of these IJM companies, if there's anybody who is willing or interested in buying any assets of the IJM companies at all, it is more likely that they are going to buy the individual assets, be it investments, more likely the investments, rather than paying more, to buy the entities, the IJM companies itself. And because of that, we feel that the IJM company should be placed under liquidation immediately. And we as a liquidator will continue to identify and recover further assets. And that also include seeing whether is there any payments in the past to any parties that's not legitimate, and therefore we have to take legal action. And then to adjudicate the liabilities of the IJM companies in order to determine how are we going to distribute whatever money that we have on hand to all of you. Whether should we pay deposits only, or should we pay for profit share or commission? Right. Now, we also asked the directors of a company, and Goh Li Sing agreed with the reasons provided by all of us in as early as 4th May 2022. And Sam Goh recently wrote back to us, and he said that there appears to be likely prospect for the iGEM companies entering into a compromise or arrangement with all of you. And what he says is that he intends to distribute the capital deposits back to creditors, and certain creditors have indicated to him that they are willing to compromise, and that he's saying that the iGEMs have not proposed a compromise or arrangement with all of you, right? And the next point that he's saying is that no, he intends to make effort to procure a white knight or investor, okay, or seek any other options to restructure iGEM companies. So that is what he said, and we have returned to him. What our position is that if there's any compromise without any new monies at all, that's as good as liquidation, right? And we also request for the identities of the creditors who are willing to compromise. We like to talk to these creditors and understand further. We like to hear from you directly, right? And also likelihood of a white knight. With the state of company currently, we do not think that anybody, as we said earlier, right? If there's anybody who is interested in assets of the iGEM companies, they will buy the assets individually. They will not buy the entity as a whole. Now, if they are interested in any of the iGEM companies, we would like to know who are these people, why is it that they like to buy these companies, what's the reason, and what is the kind of money that they are willing to inject. Okay, so notwithstanding what we have wrote to Sam Goh, we are still open to receiving views from the directors, meaning Sam Goh and Goh Li Sing, the key management who are running the operations all this time, as well as all of you. Right, moving forward, next step. So what's going to happen? Okay, now first of all, there is a deadline to request for iGEM report that we have issued. Deadline is passed, but just in case you have not registered and you would like to have iGEM report, please write to us. We will still give it to you, notwithstanding that the deadline is over. It doesn't matter, right? And also, for these town hall slides, please also write to us if you would like to have a copy. We're happy to share with you. And okay, there will be a hearing in court. If you have any views that you have, whether a company should go into JM or liquidation, feel free to have your affidavit, but to be filed on the 16th of June. And the hearing date for the judicial management application is 18th of July, 10 a.m. Okay, feel free to be there, but you have to get your lawyers to register your interest. And we are still working and still continuing with our work, and we'll provide updates to all of you in due course. As it is now, we have already updated our iGEM findings, and we expect to issue a supplemental iGEM report just to update on the verification of the cash, crypto, and receivables, and also to provide a bit more details on the breakdown of the client balances. And we are looking into filing this supplemental iGEM report in about 2 to 3 weeks' time. Right? And moving forward, there's still a lot of things to do, and we appreciate and welcome any feedback from you. And I'd like to take this opportunity once again thank all of you for writing to us. Either call us or write to us. And if you like to meet up with us, we're very happy to meet up with you and to discuss further. Right. So, and thank you very much. Now is the Q&A session.